sir.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call to order. Those present stand tall.
I'm here.
Todd Reinhardt,
President.
Brown Stout,
Here.
Andrew Emmerich,
Present.
Bill Simonelli.
Present.
John Elkins here. Dave Ott is on a cruise, so the six of us tonight. The purpose of this meeting, as you know, is to pass the budget for 2024. First, we'll have a brief report from our treasurer, Bill Simonelli.
Okay. Just to summarize, first we'll talk about the operating budget and then the reserve budget. The operating budget, overall, we saw a 4% increase in operating expenses from 2023 to 2024. We are able to offset those increases with increases in other revenues from facility rentals and increased social activity that's been occurring over the past year. Plus, we have an anticipated budget surplus from 2023 that we will carry over to 2024. So bottom line for the operating budget is that we are looking at not raising the community assessment for 2024. For the neighborhood landscape budget, based on the state of contract negotiations with Juniper, we anticipate that those owners that have managed landscape services, their costs will decrease by 9%, and the assessment that I'm asking the board to vote on reflects that 9% reduction from 2023. In the area of the reserve budget, obviously the longer-term objective is to maintain sufficient funds to cover not only near-term but long-term needs of the community. In the short term, we have approximately a $538,000 reserve budget that'll be part of the second motion. Most of that budget will be used for reserve study-based projects with some modifications to those based on current activity. Additionally, there's $100,000 in the reserve budget to start the restoration of the landscape that was destroyed by Hurricane Ian in the community. The other $100,000 is evenly split between $50,000, which we're setting aside as sort of a emergency fund for known unknowns that will occur during the course of the year, that for an emergency repair, such as like we've just had to fund this year for the pickleball court lights. And the other $50,000 is for discretionary spend by the various community committees based on following the process of coming and submitting requests through the various committees into the Finance Committee and to the board for final approval. All spending on the reserve budget has to follow standard procedures that are approved, which means any spend over $20,000 or any increase in a line item will require a board vote before that can be approved to be spent. And I have two motions for the board to consider, one motion for the operating budget and one for the reserve budget.
Was there any old business, Mr. GM? No. So, okay. Let's proceed to the new business of budget.
Okay. So the first resolution is a resolution by the Sandoval Community Association, hereafter referred to as the association. Whereas the Board of Directors has presented the attached proposed operating budget for the fiscal year 2024 to the members of the association, and whereas the proposed 2024 operating budget includes a community assessment of $2,380 or $380.00 per year to be paid quarterly in accordance with all association rules. Whereas the proposed 2024 operating budget includes a neighborhood landscape assessment of $1,617.45 per year to be paid quarterly in accordance with all association rules. Be it resolved, therefore, that the proposed operating budget for fiscal year 2024 is hereby approved as presented by the Association Board of Directors.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any discussion? If not, I will ask for an individual vote, yea or nay. Todd Reinhardt.
Yay.
Ron Stout.
Yay.
Santoro.
Yay.
Andrew Emmerich.
Yay.
Bill Simonelli.
Yay.
John Elkins, yea. Motion carried unanimously. Move to the second motion.
A resolution by the Sandoval Community Association, hereafter referred to as the Association. Whereas the Board of Directors has presented the following proposed reserve spend budget for the fiscal year 2024 to the members of the association, which is governed by all applicable association rules with respect to the approval and disbursement of association funds. The 2024 reserve spend budget comprises of $50,000 for emergency unplanned expenditures, $383,902 for reserve study-based expenditures, post-Hurricane Ian landscape renewal, $100,000, discretionary reserve expenditures, $50,000. All those items total $583,902. Whereas the proposed reserve spending budget includes a reserve assessment of $156.00 per year to be paid quarterly in accordance with all association rules. Be it resolved that the proposed reserve spend budget for the fiscal year 2024 is hereby approved as presented by the Association Board of Directors.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this where we're discussing, Bill, the capital contribution through sales?
It didn't change.
It hasn't, it's not changed.
We're leaving it 4,000.
Yeah, the only change is a $78 increase in the yearly assessment.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion? Okay. I'd also like to vote individually. Tom Reinhardt, yea or nay?
Yay.
Marilyn Stout?
Yay.
Andrew Emmerich?
Yay.
Bill Simonelli?
Yay.
Stan Toro? Stand yea or nay?
Yes.
John Elkins, yea. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. This concludes this meeting. This meeting is adjourned. We're now opening the second meeting, but before we do we have any resident comments? Given no resident comments, I think we can waive the pledge to the flag and the quorum. We've all received the minutes of the prior board meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve them?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the prior board meeting.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Minutes approved. Okay. I have no real report as a board president. Only thing I'll say is that, once again, I thank the committees, and particularly the Finance Committee, for developing this budget. I think it's probably the best work that I've seen done since I've been in Sandoval. I think all of us appreciate the fact that even though we have rapid inflation, our main dues are not going up this year. And those of us in landscaping are actually seeing a slight decrease because we've actually got a better vendor. So I applaud what's been doing, and I look forward to the coming year. Let's go to the treasurer's report. Bill Simonelli. Do we need the...
No, because we're having our meeting earlier in the month, the financials are not due from Associate until the 20th of the month, so I don't have a lot of details to go through. I do have some basic information to share, which is, as of today, the balance on our Pacific Premier Reserve account is $317,996. The balance on our Fifth Third investment account is $2,867,004.78. We see a slight increase because we have now put in the proceeds from the insurance check that we received last month. And with the increases in the interest rates, we're now seeing our year-to-date market yield is creeping back up over 3%, and we should be getting it close to 4 by early next year. The balance on the Hurricane Ian Assessment Fund is $924,219. Over the next couple of weeks, we will be meeting with Associa and doing a full review of the all Hurricane Ian related spend and putting together a proposal for the transfer of funds from the Hurricane Ian assessment account into the investment account. So based on cash flow analysis. So that's all I have for this month.
General Manager's report.
General Manager's report, presenting 4 violations for board approval. Thank you very much. They were in your packet, they're summarized in your packet.
I'd make a motion that we move forward with the violations as you've highlighted.
I second.
Oh, any discussion on it? Okay, all those in favor of moving forward with violations, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Next question was the storm drain repair, is that it?
Yes,
Okay.
part of our Ian funds were to repair a storm drain that collapsed during the storm. We have a sinkhole on the Greendale Pond. 2 bids were secured. One was from Honk Industries for $75,000. An additional $2,500 we needed for sod for a total of $77,500. And we're recommending the second bid for seat and paving, which is $31,150 for them, and including the $2,500 for sod, totaling $33,650.
So 33,000 versus 75,000?
Yes, sir.
Tough decision, right?
Huge
Yeah,
difference.
okay. Yeah.
Do we have an explanation as to the difference?
No.
It's just-
They don't want to do the job.
Okay.
And that's one of those quotes that maybe they'll go away. Honk is making a lot of money putting seawalls in for new construction right
And they're
now.
rather large.
Yeah.
So I'd like to recommend that we go with
Seat
seat
and
and paving to repair the damaged storm drain for a total of $33,650.
I'll make a motion to go with seat and paving for an amount not to exceed $34,000, and that should cover any other incidental.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
And this is subject to them signing our contractor vendor agreement, correct?
Yes. Yes. Yes, Bill.
Just to cross all the Ts on this, in the original Hurricane Ian assessment, this work was estimated at $25,000. So the quote that we're approving is a slight increase over that, but it fits within the overall total, especially with the contingency we built into the assessment.
And we don't have a choice.
And we don't have a choice,
Right,
obviously,
right,
but
right.
it's just,
Okay, we
just
have-
want to cross the Ts on this.
Thank you.
There's a pretty picture in your thing there.
Yep.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no. Motion carried. Okay, is someone here from the landscape committee? No. Oh, yes, please. You were going to make a recommendation on the,
Preserve.
yeah,
We actually have 2 things on the agenda, so which one is the first one?
First one,
Lynn, we're not that, we don't have to be that precise. You do both, okay?
Oh,
All right.
okay, all right, well, can I still just,
this is one.
okay,
That's the
all
other.
right. Okay. So we do have 2 things on the agenda tonight. And one is to move forward with recommending a new common area landscaper, which would be juniper.
She needs to use the mic.
Get closer to the mic, yes,
Okay.
because people are going to want to hear you, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so I'm here tonight to ask the board to move forward to approve the bid we got from Juniper Landscaping to be our new common area landscaper.
Okay. We need a motion from a board member to that.
I'll make a motion to make the change as suggested in our packet from Dave Ott, to change that. The motion is conservation
No,
areas.
she's talking about the common area vendor.
Oh, the common area.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I move that we go forward with negotiations as Juniper as our common area landscape vendor. Do I hear a second? That's different, yeah.
But that's new business.
I know, we got it.
Okay.
Any discussion?
Question,
Yes.
the contract negotiation team will still remain the same, which would be David Ott, John Elkins, Todd Reinhardt, and Bill Dunker, is that correct?
Seems reasonable? Yes. And you know that, well, you understand how we came here, we all do, in case. Crawford's been a great vendor for us for years, yet their service level has dropped. They've been bought out, and after being bought out, things have declined. Also, whenever we have anything extra, we get a charge like you wouldn't believe. And in a few cases, we've actually had, instead of having Crawford do it and sub it to someone else, we actually contacted subs ourselves and got a lot better deal. When we went to 3 vendors, our landscape committee recommended the top 2, which were Estate and Juniper. Juniper came in much stronger. It has a secondary advantage of, if we go with Juniper, there's no more finger pointing between whose land is it. We got one to talk to and hold responsible. So I certainly feel this is a right decision. Any other discussion?
So just to be clear, this represents nearly a $50,000 increase from Crawford's contracted budget of $424,631.
I think that's been offset by the other charges that we've been getting from Crawford. That's why it looks different on paper, yeah.
So, Andrew, part of the increase is related that we're now consolidating under GL 6100 all the landscape activity except for mowing and edging of distress lots. Before, we had a separate line item for joint costs, 6110. So you'll see that 20,000 that was in last year's budget, 20,645 that was in last year's budget is now been incorporated into the total for 6,100.
Understood.
Okay, so that's part of the increase. Also, this also has, one of the things that I understand that the landscape committee did for this RFP was to get a very comprehensive survey of all the plans that need to be done, so we don't have, so this is a more comprehensive view of what it's going to take to get all the common areas taken care of.
So the $503,500 that you budgeted for 24 actually is, this is coming in price.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Marilyn?
Stay in line for a second. I mean, you said it's $50,000 going up. What is the issue with Crawford? I mean, did we get a straight answer of what they've been doing wrong? You know, like 1 through 10? I don't understand the $60,000 increase, and Crawford, I don't know what they did wrong. And we're putting all our eggs in one basket with Juniper. We don't even know if they're a good company. How many years do we have them for? How much do we have to pay an extra 50, 60 when Crawford, to my understanding, has been doing a perfectly fine job?
Okay. I think landscape could tell you that the perfectly fine job is actually not perfectly fine. And also, if you recall, when we had an understanding of a $250,000. Put it on mute
Yeah.
while that's happening. we had an understanding of a $250,000 deal for cleanup for Crawford. The first bill they sent us was $450,000. There's a question of trust involved here and what we expect to happen with our next vendors. We have a far better contract that we can control things with this new vendor. I think that even if it's a few dollars more, I believe we're going to get a lot better result. Plus, I'm not sure I trust that Crawford's costs will remain at that level. They seem to have enjoyed many opportunities to add extras as we ask them to do things. Chuck, you might talk about that.
Yeah, that's true. The landscape committee, we've kind of struggled managing them, multiple complaints, not to the extent of DT, but weed control in the beds, in the common beds, days where they don't show up because they don't have enough staff. Just the work from the day I first got here, how well they were until now, has not been up to a good standard. And I call it nickel and diming, which is more thousands and thousands every time we ask them to do any additional work above the outside contract.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Also, just to elaborate on your point, John, last year when we got the invoices from Crawford, granted, everything was in post-Hurricane Ian was a real issue, but we had to go through several iterations to get their invoices to match their statement of what their work hours were before we would agree to start paying them because of the inaccuracies in their billing.
You know, what it sounds to me is like a lot of managerial paperwork mistakes, not actual work area. And I mean, I can argue this all day, but
Okay.
my vote is no.
Okay. Well, I'm ready for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, no? You said no. Okay. Motion carries 5-1. Thank you. Okay. Next item of business is
Are you going to do
is
the,
the bridge area, right?
Right, yeah, which I guess, I'm sorry, I should have talked about that first.
That's okay.
Business,
Yeah.
but, Would like to discuss changing the motion,
Recommend.
okay, recommend changing what is in place right now regarding that bridge area, and I'm going to read what I've got here in front of me, that the Landscape Committee would like to discuss the conservation area in the areas located behind Anguilla, Sunvale, and Fairmont Cove. We reviewed the Cape Coral Land Development Code, and the only thing we could find is an article, in Article 5, that says we can't touch anything that's prohibited. And it states that the land must be developed, and we must have, well, I'm going to back it up a little bit here. Anyways, what has happened? I'm going to, instead of reading what Dave wrote, I'm going to back it up a little bit. Earlier this year, there was a motion, or I guess it was a year ago July, there was a motion made that we would start doing some work out on some of these areas that are now conservation areas or preserves. And we were going in there and cleaning them up a couple of times a year. And then, as we discovered, we should not be touching them. We looked at our covenants, and we looked at the Cape Coral laws, and we have no business being back there, so we are asking that we no longer go out there and do anything to those, and that we just leave them natural as they're supposed to be.
Okay. Yeah, the motion before that passed was that we would, it would be trimmed quarterly by our common area vendor, and that they would remove invasive species. And from your report, I understood that we cannot remove invasive species.
No, if you look
Okay.
in the Sandoval covenants, you'll see that we're not supposed to go in there and do anything.
The motion I would suggest is that we reverse the decision made by the prior board and move that the conservation area will not have any vegetation removed for any reason. Okay. So here's a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any discussion?
I'm sorry, discussion. Thank you, Bill.
Are the homeowners that have been questioning this aware that we're going to be making this decision? Not that it matters either way.
Very good question. Yes, we've talked to them a number of times, and after Mrs. Feliciano came to the last board meeting and appealed, Dave Ott and I went to the property, looked at it carefully, took photos, saw where their property line is, and then he reported that back to the landscape committee, and they did their analysis. Yes. Now,
So, but to follow up on Andrew's question, so is the landscape committee, or do you follow up directly with them to let them know this is the recommendation?
no, this is because we told them it would be a board decision.
I assume we intend to relay this decision to them, along with the understanding that they are not to be removing vegetation themselves, going through contracted resources.
We can, let's take that up, that's not part of this motion, okay?
Okay.
First, we have to decide if that's what we want to do. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no? Okay, now let's talk about how we
All right.
inform them. My suggestion is we have tell me what you suggest. Okay.
I don't know if I have a suggestion either way.
Well,
I understand that we're going to have a fight on our hands is what the issue is.
well, actually, okay. We'll have unhappy people.
Yes.
Yes, I know. But I don't know if it's a fight. There's a big disparity in terms of what that is. If you go back, if you look at the photos of Sandoval, all the way going back to its inception, and I've seen those photos, okay? That land bridge looked almost like a little park. It's only accessible from 2 private homes. Someone has clearly been walking it and using it. That's not necessarily safe, right? But we are bound by actually Cape Coral regulations to not improve or cut those kind of areas, right? So we're only abiding by that. I think they will not be happy, but I don't see any alternative, frankly. Okay?
You have a second motion, is that correct?
The motion's passed.
The grass cutting. We only did the tree removal.
Oh, we said, we don't need another motion. We said no vegetation will be removed, period. Grass is vegetation. Right? Okay. Okay, next item. Let's have some discussion from our ad hoc internet representative. Hey, Steve, is this you?
It's me.
Okay, Steve Kessens. By the way, I finally got my TV working again. Thank you very much.
It's back.
Yeah, he's back. We only would have this one.
I'm just gonna run over this as quickly as I can. John convinced me to head up the ad hoc committee for communications. Bill Seminelli, I should know that, I'm going to Italy. And I have kicked it off. We had a meeting with CenturyLink on 11/6 with a number of questions in that we've had all these outages and, people who work from home and other individuals have been really frustrated with the level of service from CenturyLink. So just a few notes. Our current contract ends April 27th, 2026. That's about 2 years and 4 months from now. So the goal of the committee is to, one, dig into what's going on with CenturyLink on an engineering level. As I'm an electrical engineer, I'm hoping I can add some value to that. And two, what are we going to do when the contract ends? And what recommendations are we going to be able to come up with to support a more stable system? And as we all know, the technology changes about every 5 minutes. So it's hard to look too far forward, but we can certainly do better than a 10-year contract that we're stuck in now. Our cost right now is about $433,858 a year. That's $204.46 a door per year. And frankly, that's pretty cheap when you consider the Comcast and other services don't provide us anything nearly that cost effective. So as we know, the outages are disruptive to everybody, especially folks who work from home. And so I'm asking CenturyLink, well, what is going on with the network? We used to have a pretty stable network. And during the meeting with Shannon, who's our account rep, and 7 of her engineers, basically covering this entire area of Southwest Florida, we asked some pointed questions about why is it like this? What's going on? What are your plans? What service elements are working? What are not working? And here's what we found out. Basically, we used to have a loop. That loop ran from Fort Myers down Pine Island, out onto Pine Island itself, then an undersea cable to Sandoval, and then back to the mainland, if you will. Of course, when Hurricane Ian hit, the Sandoval Causeway was destroyed, and along with that, our loop. So, you know, we're single-ended at this point. And so I asked them, how long will it be before you get this back together? And they reported that it's very difficult. Of course, isn't everything? They're dealing with the state. The state has not given them permission to lay their conduits and pull the cable that's necessary and so on. And it's probably going to be a year before the state actually puts that all together and clears all the contractors, and that's everybody, to go in there and reestablish that loop. There's also some concern that the undersea cable, they may not be able to support the total network bandwidth. So that was pretty frustrating, and they reported to us that they were working on a temporary solution to make our single point of connection a little more robust. And the reason we were having so many problems every time the contractors would backhoe our cable open was that the connection essentially ran all the way out onto Pine Island and then it came all the way back, and here we are. So when you look at all the construction and the other activities that are taking place, you realize quite quickly that all it takes is, you know, one break, and then there was a second break, and then they were drilling piles out on Matlacha, which confused me because I said, well, we don't live on Matlacha, but that was the situation. Now, good news is they finally got their management to approve a temporary loop. That loop then connects us at a better place in the grid. They ran about 1,800 feet of fiber optic cable, and we're hoping that that will stabilize the network, at least for the time being, because as I said, it's going to be about a year, in my estimation, before all of the conduits and the fiber systems are back to normal. We encourage everybody, as we did today, to call the 866-706-4722 number if you have any questions about our bulk account. Again, don't call the CenturyLink general number, because those folks, admittingly by Sharon from CenturyLink, don't have access to what's going on with the bulk accounts. And the bulk accounts have a service that we can tap into that is much more robust than any of the private CenturyLink single-point home service connections. For instance, today, we had a burp this morning. I got on my computer, I couldn't connect. Yet my TV and my refrigerator and my thermostat were still connected, which made absolutely no sense to me this morning. So I turned on my hotspot. I got my computer to connect to the internet. And I spoke with them just shortly before the meeting, and the issue is not resolved. There's still a lot of red areas in the state of Florida. Everybody got bumped off this morning. There was a major server failure after a lightning storm at one of their central servers. And she said some of the people are back. I was back about 2 o'clock, but that there's still a majority of the state of Florida that was knocked off. So it wasn't just us, it was everybody. But they're hoping, and they didn't have a prognosis of when that would be fixed, but we try to communicate with you through Chuck as to what the current status is on these various outages. One of the things that I asked him, I said, gee whiz, the bandwidth hasn't been too stable lately. And I've been checking it on my machine. And the response was, well, unfortunately, they're on kind of a ragtag system of fiber through down Pine Island and out to Sandoval, or out to Pine Island and back. And so there's a lot of traffic being shoved onto a smaller pipe. And we're hoping that that's going to be resolved with this new connection that they made, giving us more bandwidth, more reliability, and some, the network stalwart until we can get this Sandoval loop finished. So how do we handle this on the short term? Well, I would suggest that people who work from home and who are really tied to their internet service, you have to understand you've got to have a backup. John and I have T-Mobile hotspot. When the system goes out for an hour or 2 days or 3 days, I run my whole house on my hotspot. It's $63 a month for that hotspot. You get 100 gigabytes of data, which is quite a bit. So you can run your TVs, your computers, the kids can play games, and so on. And it's a good way to keep your systems up and running, particularly if it's vulnerable to you in terms of your work product. You can use your phone's hotspot feature, but I'll caution you that just because you have unlimited text and data does not mean you have unlimited hotspot data. The carriers, all of them are different, but they, after about, at least on my AT&T phone, after 40 gigabytes, they ratchet you down to nothing. So that's when I went out and got a T-Mobile hotspot, because I'm traveling around in my RV and I want to watch TV, and most campsites have barely anything in the way of internet. And the hotspots work really, really good. The other option would be to utilize Comcast or Starlink. I know that Comcast users are paying anywhere from $130 to $160 a month, which is pretty pricey compared to like T-Mobile or AT&T on their hotspots. Or Starlink, which is the new kid on the block. And we have Starlink users here on the property that are $135 a month. And so there are your three options, essentially, if you're really in desperate need of a sustained internet service, probably for the next year. As we go through these, the vulnerability of the systems, I think, throughout Florida have not been totally pasted back together. And we just have to realize that.
Thank you, Steve. I think one thing I think has been a lot of things you're working on. One thing you've really accomplished. I believe that they're doing something sooner because you guys contacted them in terms of that loop.
Right.
That before we were not getting anything, and now we can expect some relief.
Right.
But we will have to expect outages over the course of next year.
And we have scheduled another meeting for December 5th, and we will continue to have those meetings with CenturyLink to stay informed. You know, whatever might happen, if they have a major network rebuild or a central switching system that goes out, we want to know about that. We want to know what their plan is and how long it's going to take and how it can be mitigated.
We want to make sure we take advantage of Steve's work before he moves to that house in Sicily he's building. Yeah. Okay. Thank you,
Yeah,
Steve,
yeah,
very much.
okay. Any questions?
I have a question of it. It's not an opinion, I just wanted to glean his information.
Sure.
Did you talk at all about, we are under contract by state with CenturyLink. What is their end of the contract for providing service?
They have been giving us credits
Okay.
based on the service outages. Like over Ian, they gave us about $18,000 of credit. However, Bill has turned over the accounting system at CenturyLink, and it turns out we're not getting all the credit we deserve. So, Bill, and I won't speak for you, but I think you're working with Shannon at CenturyLink in the accounting department to try to get this thing straightened out.
And the other part of that would be, I mean, is there any point where we can cut that contract and we say you have not fulfilled it, you want out now?
What do you do once you get out?
Everybody, like we did with TV, everybody has to get their own.
So,
Okay.
so.
Well, sure.
So so there are different approaches that we could potentially take. Part of what Steve is gonna be looking at, is some different options that we can do with CenturyLink, short-term and long-term, from a contractual basis to deal with it. Because it's contractual, we've got, you know, we gotta sort of work through that. Additionally, you've gotta look at what alternatives are out there. And then, unfortunately, this is not like the landscape where we can say goodbye to old landscape, new landscape. We've got to sort of keep these old and new in place as we transition from one to the other. So, for good or for bad, we have to work with CenturyLink at least for another year or so, I would say.
At least, I mean, we can,
I've got one other thing too. We
Sure.
just got Verizon, not here, but up north, and I don't know,
Right.
Verizon has a box.
This is not an open discussion time, ma'am.
I'm sorry, this is an open discussion. He said we only had 3 options. I think we have a 4th one.
Well, talk to him privately, please.
yeah, I can explain to you
That's fine.
what that option
I'm
is.
sorry.
Okay? Any other questions? If not,
Thank you.
You're
very
welcome.
much. Anything more from landscaping, Lynn? You don't have to.
Just one thing.
Sure.
And because I know you're tired of hearing about landscaping.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Well, we are working with Beltran, who is a landscape designer, and we have gotten some proposals from them to come in and look at, do some stuff. And it's pages and pages and pages of estimates. We've gotten some maps, but they weren't really what we wanted, so we're waiting for some more maps from them. But I will tell you that the one thing the committee is doing is we are going out and we are walking the community and walking it, and we're trying to identify the most important places to spend our money going forward. And we want to identify the places where it's going to impact the people that maybe lost some privacy because of losing some shrubs. Maybe there's now some more lights coming into their homes, also some noise factors. People have been calling and contacting us, and we're taking notes of what people are mentioning is important to them. In some cases, we might make some flower beds smaller and try and just add sod there, because we were overplanted. We don't have to, we definitely do not need to be replanting everything we lost.
That's the landscape architect, right?
That's the landscape
Yeah, right.
architect that we're working with,
And we
so.
can merge them in with our new supplier.
Yeah, and matter of fact, we're going to be looking at also, when we start working with, I always want to call them the wrong name, Juniper. When we start working with Juniper, they have their own landscape nursery. So we're going to give them the same proposal and, you know, kind of let them look at it and tell us what their price would be to be doing that kind of stuff. And also just asking them for, they're going to be here, so they may have some great recommendations. But we are starting to move forward and looking at the damaged areas.
Thank you.
So that's it.
Your landscape division's been meeting at least twice a month lately, sometimes weekly, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Communications, I don't think we're represented. David is not here. Someone here to talk from communications. Arc?
Marty's here.
Oh, I didn't see him, Mark. Yeah.
I don't really have much to say because we've only met one time. We meet again on Saturday. We have 26 applications for Saturday. We've had 31 so far this month. We had 9 more of the new roof applications. So, sorry, they had to be denied. There's nothing we can do. You know, there's nothing to process, so we have to deny them. And I would like to recommend that the office not even accept those applications.
Can they be heard? Can she be heard?
It's all
Can
I've got.
Marty be heard on the mic?
It's all that's there.
Okay, good, yeah. Yeah, explain people are actually submitting applications without the documentation required.
We're getting one sheet of paper that says, you know, all the, name, address, all that stuff, and then for a project, it says new roof. And what we're supposed to get is the manufacturer's name, the color, the type of roof, insurance, including workers' compensation, and the license of the installation company, the roofer.
In absence of that, it must be returned.
And there's nothing we can do, so I'm thinking instead of that one sheet of paper coming to ARC, because we deny it, it goes back to the office, they have to do more processing, get hold of the homeowner, and then it comes back to us. So it's like, it's like 5 steps involved.
Where does the application come in first?
It comes to the office.
Can't we just turn it around right away?
That's what I'm
Anything
thinking.
attached?
If a resident walks in the door with one sheet of paper and is observed that there's nothing there, they could say, where's your documentation? There's nothing to process. When you have some more information, return the application. A lot of applications do come in an email, and if it comes straight to me, I forward it to the office, and then they could just, repeat the same thing, that there's no documentation. So when you do have some information,
Yes, sir.
This would be good for an offline discussion, John, to sit down with Chuck and see what makes sense from a process perspective.
so that's it. We're done.
And again, I would articulate that this is due to the attempt to stop the need to wash the roofs.
I understand. Well, we know that. Yeah. Any, there's a social committee.
Well, and the members of the social committee, for the most part, are on a cruise, so we didn't meet.
I'm very social.
They're being social, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So consequently, the meeting is canceled, and we're going to have 2 later this month.
Okay. Stan, are you still with us? Stan? Okay. Is there someone from amenities? Yes.
Rob is here.
Thank you, Rob. Uh-oh. Been sitting in that chair too long. Watch out.
Yeah, I'm okay, it's just,
All right.
fell asleep.
What's this lead?
Anyway, we've had meetings once or twice a month. We are currently in the process of reviewing a whole bunch of recommendations for next year's budget for stuff to look at to improve or better some of the current amenities. Some of it's wear and tear, some of it's new ideas that are passed through. So the other thing is the fans are being, or electrical work's being done on the bocce tiki huts this Saturday, so that's proceeding. Other than that, that's about what I have.
Okay. Thank you. Safety and security? No report? Lakes, Jane?
The Lakes Committee met on November 9th. The December meeting will be on the 11th. We got some estimates on shoreline repair, and we've requested some updates on that. They're just not very good estimates. They don't have enough detail of the work that's included and what they're recommending, and the prices are out of line. So we're still looking for quotes for shoreline repair. We did put a number in the budget, and we'll work to that until we get a better number. We are planning a fishing event for November 26th to remove invasive species. This will be open to the whole community, and all the lakes will be included. We had littorals that were planted on October 27th, and there were some issues with that, so they had to come back on the 7th and added more littorals at that point. The Pond Watch did a second sampling of all the lakes to evaluate any effect on the water quality from the beginning of the fertilizing season. We're waiting for the detailed report on that. The Placostomus habitat strategy pricing came in, and that was shockingly high. So the committee is going to review that further to see if we want to do anything with that as a test. This is a test program to try to catch the armor-plated catfish. And so we still have to look at that because it came in much higher than expected. And the schedule for the meetings is out on the web if anybody wants to attend. Any questions?
Thank you. Finance, Will?
I'll just go up there, so give him the mic.
So with respect to the Finance Committee, our chairman, Sean Kinney, has had to step down from being chairman of the committee. He has taken on some additional work assignments, which is going to put a stress on his time. So he is still a member of the committee, but is not able to lead it anymore. So we are going to be actively looking for a new chairperson. In the interim, I will be the acting chairperson, running the meetings, doing the minutes, etc. We wrapped up the budget discussion this week and at our meeting on Tuesday, and we're starting to look forward to priorities to focus on in 2024. Right now, the priorities that we're looking at, spending time with associate to have oversight with are going to be with respect to the implementation of the Intrafy cash service, reserve spending oversight and cash flow planning for 2024 so that we can manage better the disbursement of funds so we can minimize what we take out of the investment account over the course of the year. And one of the activities, and the other activity is that we will be doing more long-term planning and analysis for reserve funding. We have a couple openings still on the committee, and Beth Ann Helsinki has applied for membership to the Finance Committee, and I'd like to submit her application for approval by the board.
Okay. Any discussion of her joining the board, joining the Finance Committee? Beth Ann? All in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, no. Welcome, Beth Ann, to the Finance Committee. Okay.
She's with the social committee this week.
Yes, she is, yeah. Covenant standard.
Covenants met on November 2nd. They did not meet again this month. They'll be meeting next month to address the violations that were issued last month at last month's board meeting and the ones that we're doing today. There was some discussion in covenants as to regards to the fact that one of the violations that was approved at the end of the September meeting was rectified in early October, and the discussion was surrounding whether or not they still wanted to uphold the fine. And the committee decided in order to continue to encourage compliance as well as to, in some manner, recover costs that it takes us to issue violations, that fine would stand because it was not rectified until after our vote at that September meeting. I think that was a wise decision because obviously Chris's time as well as the mailers, there's an expense to that. And that's one of the reasons for the fine, is not only to encourage compliance but also to recoup costs to the association. So I think that was a wise decision on our part. We have had several incidents in the community in which community members are either parking on the sidewalk or physically parking and storing on their lawns on the grassy areas. Associa had approached the Covenants Committee and asked us to address our documents, because our founding documents, governing documents, actually do not specifically state in Section 13 of the CCRs, those are your covenants and restrictions, and I'm sorry, I'm missing what the second C means, but basically the guidelines of the community as articulated at its founding. It states nowhere in that parking and storage cannot occur on your lawn or on the sidewalks. So they've asked us to, Associa asked us to address that because the only way the violations to date can be made is going through the city ordinances. The court does not permit that behavior, so we can turn it to city ordinance and not community guidelines. Unfortunately, the Section 13 of the CCRs that addresses vehicle storage would require us to go through the amendment process, which at some point I think the community has to make a consideration of doing, but we can certainly tackle the handbook that addresses some of that clarification. So what the Covenants Committee has proposed is to add a couple lines to paragraph 3. One of the paragraphs in Section 3.4 that discusses controlled gate access. Currently, that paragraph in that section reads, according to the SCA, which is the Sandoval Community Association use restrictions, item 13, vehicles of residents and guests are prohibited from parking on any street within the Sandoval community. It is the Board of Directors' discretion to allow parking until 1 a.m. Between the hours of 1 a.m. and 6 a.m., parking violators will be towed at the owner's expense. Overnight street parking passes are available if needed for ARC approval projects. For the next 12 months until July 2024, the resident may apply for up to 5 72-hour extensions for street parking, limited to 2 vehicles per residence. It is the resident's responsibility to ask for each extension. No parking on the street is allowed on Somerville Loop. So that's how that section currently reads. What the Covenants Committee is asking the board tonight to consider for approval is adding the following lines to that paragraph in order to tighten the language of the documents so that Associate can deal with some of these other parking issues that we're running into. We're proposing to add all homeowners, residents, and guests shall store their operational and compliant vehicles in a homeowner's garage or driveways. At no time may homeowner, resident, or guest vehicles be parked and or stored on the homeowner's lawn and grass, and at no time may vehicles park on the concrete sidewalks. So those two sentences are being asked to be added to that particular paragraph. Again, I think the concern that some may have is that this is in our handbook and not in those founding documents. The discretion of such boards can change in the future. I would like at some time to move forward on potentially looking at a more permanent solution, but until then, that is the proposal for the change on the resident handbook.
The floor is open for that motion. Are you making that?
I am
motion?
making that motion that we add those two sentences as articulated.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. You and I went over it carefully. I totally agree. It's rare that that happens, but you've already showed me pictures of people parking on the sidewalk.
Yes.
So,
And on the lawn.
And John, there were cars parked on the sidewalk on Land Bay as we came to the meeting tonight, so,
were they really?
at the end of our street.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, agreed.
Any other discussion? No? Ready for the question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? Motion carried. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Risk management, Todd Reinhardt?
We're very fortunate to have the insurance guru with us tonight, Craig Schneider. Do you have any, I'm putting you on the spot, do you want to say anything?
I would just say that we're still pushing ahead to try and get some more money. We're not just going to go away. We're going to keep pushing. We're pushing to get the door fixed on the clubhouse. We need a bill for that. We need a bill for the lights. We're going to submit the hole from the drainage pipe. All they can do is tell us no.
Sure.
You know, if we don't submit it, we know we won't get it, so we're going to submit that. And then the debris removal is based on the total claim. So that figure needs to be adjusted because we've already got 100,000 more, which hasn't been figured in. So I'm hoping that 50 to 75,000 more by the time we get done with them. And then we're pretty close to having it wrapped up. My question would be in that it's not if we have another hurricane, it's when we have another hurricane. Are we planning for money to have for the deductible, money to have for the fence? This needs to be, I think, built into the budget so that when it happens, we have some money rather than have to assess for all the damage.
Yeah, so one of the things that the finance committee wants to do is take a longer-term view to reserve funding, especially based on the experience with Hurricane Ian and what we've been through. So that will be part of the analysis. So probably at some point we'll want to sit down and talk to you about that as we get through that.
And maybe including a reserve study too. Yeah.
Well, the reserve studies focuses on the infrastructure that needs to be done, but we can still build it into the budget planning going forward too.
So these guys have done a great job in getting us a lot of extra money out of the claims. Thank you so much.
We're trying.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, Chuck, for helping.
And there's been no other meeting of risk management in November. We kind of meet as needed, so I have nothing else to report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Anything from strategic planning?
Strategic planning, there was a version 2.0, let's call it, that was sent out by Chuck, I think, this week.
No.
So I would just ask, Marilyn sent some comments, but I would ask the board to finalize your comments on that and get them to me or Jerry Kern by November 30th, so we can finalize the document for board adoption at the December meeting, please.
Thank you. Okay. Our next board meeting will be on the 14th of December. We are adjourned. Do we have resident comments? Any questions? Any more resident comments? No more? Okay.